Last year was a huge year for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I mean, we had the final issue of the last Ronin comic book release. I highly recommend giving it a read. I mean, not just the final issue, the whole series, obviously. We also had the Cowabunga collection release, but one of the biggest things was Shredder's Revenge, in my opinion. Tribute Games, they did an amazing job creating a new retro-inspired beat-em-up with that game. It was an amazing experience. 6-player online co-op, an arcade mode, a story mode, plus you had 7 playable characters to choose from. Now, in 2023, the Turtles continue to be huge. I mean, we have a new movie that just released, love it or hate it, that's fine. And then also, the Last Ronin comic has a prequel sequel series out, The Lost Years, and a Last Ronin video game was announced to be in development. Looking forward to that one. Hopefully they don't screw it up. But what we're talking about today is going back to Shredder's Revenge. They're now releasing a new DLC, Dimension Shellshock. And I got the privilege of playing this DLC early. And I want to share some of my thoughts with you guys after having played it a ton. I mean, it's really fun. End of review, pretty much. Go buy it. But no, let's take it serious and get into it. So there's a couple new things here. First, we get 2 new playable characters. The Rabbit Samurai Usagi Yojimbo and the high-ranking Foot Clan leader Karai. Both characters come with their own movesets and do feel quite different from one another. I liked Karai, but wound up using Usagi most of the time. So another thing we now have is several color palettes for each character. A few of these are available from the get-go and I believe are a part of a free update, but there's some exclusive colors to unlock during your time playing the new survival mode. But among those color palettes, we have a Game Boy and an NES style, and I really thought those were cool. But for the meat of this DLC, survival mode. This mode is tough when you first start out, and your progress leveling up characters in the story mode doesn't transfer over here. Which is fine, as there's a new set of progression unlocks in this mode for each character. So as you level up during your playthrough of collecting shards and obtaining the dimension crystals, you will beef up your character. Each level adds something, like +1 the HP, +1 the ninja power, and when you get your character to level 3, you'll actually gain an extra life. That extra life is probably the most important unlock here, because once you start survival mode, you only have one single life. Once you die, it's over. That's it. So when you first start survival mode, you get a new cutscene explaining things, which I thought was cool because you have all the included characters, represented here. So it starts with the Turtles just chilling with their friends when the neutrinos pop in saying, hey, we're in trouble because these crystals we use to travel between dimensions are being grabbed up by Shredder, and he'll wind up doing some bad stuff, I guess. I mean, the story isn't extremely involved, and that doesn't really matter so much. It's just enough to give you motivation and understanding of why you're doing what you're doing. So, hey, let's just jump into it. So the point of this mode, it's to collect a certain number of shards to obtain the dimension crystal to continue on to another dimension to chase down the Master of the Void, Shredder. After collecting 5 crystals, it's off to the final boss. Now that's all easier said than done. Remember, this is survival mode, and when you first start off, it may be a little difficult, especially if you're playing by yourself. So you start off in a random dimension. Typically, it's been either Edo or Mirage when I started playing it, and there's a total of 5 dimensions before you go to the Void. And you could continue on once you finish the Void, or choose to go home and see the ending type of thing. You still save all your progress, though. And, when you jump into these stages, they can be in a random order. But that's not all that's random. The enemies you face in each wave will be different. Sometimes a crazy variety. Sometimes it'll be a fight with a boss or multiple bosses at once. And then sometimes it may just be some Foot Clan dudes on bikes that you have to avoid, or, you could choose to kill them in order to clear the round. There's also no set number of rounds, just a goal. Those shards that you need to get, that number. The first dimension that you're in will be a smaller number. Each dimension after will require more, and the challenge and difficulty also increases. So there's 2 ways to get shards. Sometimes enemies drop them, which can take a while to get enough because they only drop 1 at a time. But then also at the end of each round, you have to make a choice of which portal to go through to start the next dimension or the next round. There's always 2 portals with a random perk. You won't know what some of these perks do when you're picking it for the first time, so that can kind of be fun. You don't know what you're getting yourself into, but sometimes you're also given the option of shards, usually in a quantity of 10, 20, or 30. So this perk selection thing I thought was really fun, and it's deeper than you initially think. Like, how do you choose? Sometimes you might get a party pizza that heals you completely up. Sometimes you get a mutation to turn into a boss like Rocksteady, Bebop, or even Shredder. But sometimes it'll be an effect. So depending on your progress, your current hit points, you have this selection that can either make or break you. What's the best for your current situation? My tip is to always stay away from the Band-Aid icon, no matter what the other choice is. I believe that one's called Hurt and Heal, and I never found a situation where it was beneficial. So with that one, you take double damage, but after several rounds, you get fully healed. Not worth it, in my opinion, no matter what the other option is. It's way too risky. And between those several rounds of you waiting to get this full heal, you might wind up getting a party pizza anyway. I mean, but maybe not. So, hey, risk it if you want, but I just never found a use for that Band-Aid perk. So my strategy is always to take shards if you don't need a heal. If your life is over 50%, I'd rather take the shards so I can progress, earn more crystals, and level up my character. If I'm presented with a mutate into a boss option, and the other options, like maybe a small number of shards or a temporary power-up, I'll take that because when mutating into a boss, they have their own life bar, and they are kind of powerful. With their ninja ability, it's always increasing, and it increases quickly, so you're always using their special if you want to use it. Now, their life bar is small, but it gives you some extra time of not taking damage to the main character you're playing as. So that's a huge plus. These choices, I mean, they introduce a little bit of strategy and critical thinking between rounds, which I found really ties the entire experience together. So the more you play and progress, the more you will see, obviously. But there's also random modifiers to deal with. Yeah, we're not done. There's so much to this. Sometimes you'll have fast enemies. I mean, self-explanatory. Or you'll have enemies that explode and deal damage when defeated. Or random missile attacks, spikes coming up, gale force winds blowing you around, or even low gravity, which is kind of fun at times. There's just some really weird combinations of things going on in these stages, and after playing for many hours, I know I haven't seen it all. So it's a lot of fun. I mean, I really enjoyed playing this using the new characters, and I don't normally care about survival modes in games, and wouldn't really think they would be worth it as paid DLC, but with how this mode was done here, it's extremely addicting. And you have an online leaderboard for this mode. If that's your thing, it's kind of cool seeing where you place. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. I played via Steam, but I'm going to be buying the DLC for my Nintendo Switch, and for my kids on the Xbox, that's the way they played. I mean, these guys here, they doubly sold me by providing an early access review copy. So thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Tribute Games and .emu. Appreciate all you guys watching. Let me know what you think. Bye.